All right, good afternoon, traders. Today is, what's today? Today's the day after Cinco de Mayo. Too much tequila. All right, today is May 6th, 2025. My name is John Carrigan. I'm the lead instructor here at BYOB Trading. Thank you for being here. Hey, how about how much did I make today? 6K today. How I made 6K today. Hey, let's go take a look at some charts, and then we'll look at that in a minute. All right? First, let's find a clean chart, okay? Find something nice and clean. All right? 10-minute trend. Definitely a 10-minute downtrend coming into the close, okay? 10-minute downtrend under the close, into the close. 2-hour downtrend all day. All right, 2-hour downtrend all day. Daily chart, lower high, lower low, closing inside the bullish trap over the rising or the hooking 17. Let's take a look at it with the scratch on. All right, you can see we're still in the middle ground. We're not in the upper third. We're not in the lower third. So we're still neutral through here. Still in an uptrend. We got a higher low. We made a higher high. Everything's still in an uptrend. We're just neutral through here. Where do I think price pulls back to? Well, you see this all-time high anchored VWAP. I think they pull back to that. And this anchored VWAP low off of the breakup candle low right here. Okay, right from this right here. So you can see where they converge right here at the midpoint. So I think price pulls back to about 550, 555. First 555, then maybe 550. And from there, we start the consolidation range. I think that sets the consolidation range. That will probably be the low of the range. And then we're probably going to start our W pattern in there. And it's going to look probably something like this and up to here. And then it'll dip a little lower the next time to scare the Jesus out of you. And then come back up here. And then maybe a half back and up to the upside, or maybe it does this, okay? It does a full back, okay, and then rips to the upside, or it does a full back and then does this number right here where it does a little half back up and shoots down. All right, that's what I'm looking for to happen. All right, so we'll see what happens. So I think we're gonna set the low of the consolidation range. All right, because we got some work to do. Anyways, let's go back and take a look at the 2-day chart. Okay, so we'll look at the 2-day chart. Let's squeeze this in a little bit, move this down a little bit. Okay, 2-day chart still in a downtrend. All right, they'd have to take out this high to negate the downtrend. All right, 3-day chart still in a downtrend. They'd have to take out this high to negate the downtrend. Weekly chart still in a downtrend because look, they took out that low, that low, that low, and even that low right there. Okay, so they took out all those lows, and they're in a downtrend. In order to negate the downtrend, they have to make a higher high. And that means they have to come all the way back up here and take out that high. Now, there's another scenario. They could make a lower high, make a higher low, come back up and rip through it, and that would create the uptrend. All right? It's just a label, but there we are. On the monthly chart, okay, the first low we come to is down here. Okay, so the monthly has to take out that low right there in order to negate the uptrend. So the monthly's still in an uptrend. Monthly's doing good, all right? So there's the monthly chart. All right, let's go back and take a look at the game plan for this morning. Let's see, it's probably going to look very confusing, all right? I'll try to move a lot of this stuff out of the way, okay, because that wasn't relevant. The pivot really wasn't relevant, okay? And the downtrend wasn't really relevant either, okay? So we gapped down. So we had a bearish gap down, and then we in the pre-market, post-market right here, right? So we came down to this area right here, okay? We didn't quite hit the top of that candle right there. Okay, we came up short. We didn't gap fill. There's a lower gap down there. So they stopped it during mid-drop, all right? It's like taking a leak and stopping halfway through, all right? That's what they did, okay? So then they ripped it back in the other direction, okay, just when you think we're going to go fill gap or at least hit that pivot high right there, okay, they pulled the rug right here and ripped it back in the other direction, okay, and then bull flagged it from there, and then did a little whoop-de-whoop. That was, I guess, Mr. Trump, President Trump speaking there. Ripped it up and then came back down. All right, so they hit this yesterday's all-time high. Yesterday's high of day anchored VWAP right there. Okay, there's one other VWAP, and that involves price up here. Okay, this is the rally high anchored VWAP right there. They came close to that, but they didn't quite hit it. They came up pennies short of filling the gap. Okay, so that's a bearish clue for me. Whenever they come up pennies short of filling the gap, because they can do it. If they want to fill the gap, they can fill the gap. All right, but the fact that they come up pennies short filling the gap tells me that bears have control. All right, bulls just don't have enough mustard or spinach to get the job done. All right, because they came up short. Then we had no follow through on that big green candle. That's a flag. We're coming down. All right, as soon as you see no follow through, okay, you give them one candle, okay, but the second candle, if they're not back up there making a new or higher high, all right, then they're not going back up. Then it's a failed breakout. Okay, so here you got a bull flag, you got what looks like a failed breakout, then you got a news event, and then you got another failed breakout, and then we come back down here, visit VWAP, and then back to the opening range, which was right through here. Okay, that's the opening range we pulled back to, and then when we revisit the opening range, then they rallied off of there. But still understand that the bears have control. We shorted right into this rally back up to the base up here over VWAP. Okay, you can see price action on a 10-minute chart. You can see here's the rubber band candle. Would be the free floating candle that reaches up higher. So here's your spike candle. See how that's attached? Okay, so that would be your rubber band candle. You see they got up there once, but they couldn't hold it, and then they lost it. All right, so there's SPY on the 10-minute chart. All right, so for the game plan, we played the opening box. And of course, it was very confusing. It was certainly looked like they were going to flush it down and at least hit 550, 652. And like I said, they stopped midstream and turned around and went the other direction. So there you go. They tricked us. All right. But there's SPY. We did play the 10-minute uptrend over VWAP right here. That was profitable. Okay, so I'll drag this over and show you what happened with that. So on the 10-minute uptrend, played some calls. Okay, only made about 682. Of course, remember, we gapped way down, so all of my calls, I had 25 of them, were all underwater by about $3,000 or $4,000. So I had to dig myself out of that hole, and I managed to make about $600 digging myself out of that hole. Okay, then we started with the puts. All right, in which case we played this downtrend. That was failure for follow through on that big green candle right there. So traded some puts on the pullback, and on the puts managed to ink out about $2,800 there on some of those puts, and then some 0 DTE puts right here. Inked out about $3,000 on those, trading those into the close. All right, so that's it right there. It's just my $6,000 day. But Price action, you can see it was horrible all day. It was trash all day, okay? You can see the 3 EMA on the 10-minute chart. Okay, you can see it shoots up over it. See that right there? Then it shoots down under it. Then it shoots up over it. And then it shoots down under it, over it, under it, over it. You know, it's just like it was crazy all day. You couldn't get a trend going for more than an hour. That was it. Just when you think you got, like, here's a spike candle, there's a rubber band candle, where does it go? Nowhere. It goes nowhere. Got up like maybe $1 up to 561, and then it got crushed. No follow through on that. Then the president speaks, and then it rips. Okay, and then what happens is no follow through, and we drop. Okay, and then we start this downtrend, this right here, which lasts for basically. Okay, let's look for the rubber band candle. There's the spike candle. There's the rubber band candle. Where does it go? Nowhere. All right, it was a trash day. Okay, now we're back up. Now we got another 10-minute uptrend. Again, here's the spike candle. Where's the rubber band candle? The one that exceeds it right here. Okay, and where does price go? Nowhere. All right, then turns around, comes back the other way. Okay, there was no trend. That's where we make our money, is on the trend. Okay, picking tops and bottoms, not very good at it. Okay, but that fat trend in the middle that gets us from the bottom to the top or the top to the bottom, we're good at that. All right, as long as it can keep going. This one did not keep going. All right, if you struggled today, that's the reason. It's just too much chop right through here. I mean, big candle, little candle, big candle, little candle. I mean, they sped it up. I mean, it was like riding a mechanical bull. It really was. All right, you're up. They speed it up, and then they put it down. Now they tilt it down. Okay. And now they speed it up, all right? And then they slow it down, and then they dip it way back, okay? And then they turn real fast, 2 360s, and then point it straight up and just almost buck you off right there, okay? This was like riding a mechanical bull right there, all right? That was all it was. If you struggled today, that's why, because they sped it up, slowed it down, sped it up, slowed it down. 360 turn, back down. You know, it was everywhere and anywhere. Okay, we're caught in between this uptrend line and this downtrend line, which starts from yesterday, right there. All right, we got the second and Cinco de Mayo high. So you got the high from 5.2 and the high from Cinco de Mayo, and we got a downtrend line right there, and you can see we're kind of caught underneath that for right now. Okay, so you can see here's the Friday 5.2 peak, and then we got the Cinco de Mayo peak right there. Okay, and then we came up there with the Trump speech, kissed, butterfly kiss there. Okay, didn't even gap fill, and then back down here. So we're probably coming to this uptrend line right through here. All right, good chance we're coming down to probably 556.62 eventually, maybe sometime tomorrow. We'll see. All right, we'll see what happens. We got earnings, so things could change. All right, so there's SPY. Enough about SPY. Okay, you saw how I made my money. Let's go take a look at the market. All right, so let's take a look on the daily chart, and let's pick up QQQ. Let me just say QQQ pretty much mirror images SPY. All right, and not to mention the futures charts, they pretty much mirror the SPY and the QQQ, respectively, okay? The NQ is going to mirror the QQQ, all right? And the ES is going to pretty much mirror the SPY. And the SPY is not going to be much different than the QQQ, other than the numbers, all right? So if you look at it, on the same 10-minute chart, you can see what looks to be familiar candles, all right, almost exactly the same, looking like SPY. If I covered this up, you wouldn't know whether it was, and I covered the numbers, okay, you wouldn't know whether it was SPY or QQQ, all right? They pretty much mirror each other. If you ever wanted to neutralize one, you would take the other one and go the other direction. If you ever wanted to hedge one, you could take one and go the other direction. That's a way of hedging. In case you don't know it, all right, that is a suitable way to hedge, for me anyways, okay, is to take one and go the other direction with it. So if you're long SPY and you're coming into a volatile event, you know, what I like to do is short QQQ, all right? That way I kind of neutralize the position. If it goes down, well, then QQQ gains in value, but SPY will lose in value. If it goes up, well, QQQ will lose in value, but SPY will gain in value. It's a way of neutralizing the position, all right? Keep in mind, it does bring on another position for you to manage, all right? But you have to have a plan to either, hey, I'm going to get out of my hedge here at resistance, or I'm going to get out of my hedge here at support. So anyways, QQQ, okay? You can see QQQ, 10-minute downtrend into the close. Daily candle, let's look at it. It looks just like SPY, okay? High, lower, low, closing inside bullish trap right there. See the 3 EMA? It's up over the white 8 EMA. Okay, they're up over that. See the red dots? That's the 17 EMA. Instead of being a line, they're dots. All right, so you got, they turn green when price is above, and they turn red when price is below. So you can see you got the bullish trap, 3-8 trap, up over the 17 EMA. Okay, still up over all-time high anchored VWAP right there. Still up over the all-time high anchored VWAP. Up over the midpoint. Same position. It's in neutral land right here. Okay, it's not in the lower third, not in the upper third. It's just in the neutral land right through here. Again, uptrend, higher low, higher high. Okay, so it's in uptrend, just in neutral land right now. Acting bullish. All right, it is acting bullish. Okay, it's a little pullback in that bullish uptrend that we got going so far. I mean, we could take a line and push one right through here. If I wanted to get aggressive, I could use that line. Okay, probably won't last long, but that's the aggressive line right there. Stringing together that low and that low. All right, and then the non-aggressive line would be to take the same line and let's be real, okay? Swing it out a little bit, okay? They can't maintain that kind of bullish behavior forever like that. So just kind of swing it out right there. So maybe a pullback to the all-time high anchored VWAP, maybe to the uptrend line over here, maybe over the next few days, okay? Mr. Powell's going to speak tomorrow at 2 o'clock, all right? Actually, they're going to make an FOMC announcement at 2 o'clock, but Mr. Powell's going to speak at 2:30, okay? I'm not expecting any surprises, okay? I know POTUS wants him to cut rates, and I know that he looks like a man of conviction, you know, probably a Harvard graduate, and he's probably going to say, I'm not doing that, and look like a fool, you know, and you bring in tariffs the next week or this week. So I don't think there's going to be any changes. I don't think there's going to be any cuts. I think the economy's just going to be trudging along until we get certainty. We're waiting on POTUS to give us certainty, okay? Either put the tariffs on or take the tariffs off, but give us some type of certainty, okay? Until then, the market's going to be flippy, whippy, and wild, all right? That's, I hate to say it, but that's the way it's going to probably be, all right? So there's QQQ in an uptrend in neutral land. Let's take a look at IWM. IWM, not in an uptrend. All right, well, maybe you call it an uptrend, that little pullback there underneath the 17, making a high up there, okay? So, all right, we'll give it to them. Uptrend, they're in neutral land, all right, up over. They're about to cross back into the bearish territory. That's the lower third. All right, this is the all-time high anchored VWAP, this upper pink line. Okay, so they're under the all-time high anchored VWAP in neutral land, all right, in a weak uptrend. I'm just going to call it a weak uptrend because that's what it is. All right, in a weak uptrend. So uptrend, neutral, just like the others. Lower high, lower low, closing inside a bullish trap over the 17 EMA. Let's take a look at Diamond Dow. Diamond Dow, same deal. All right, lower high, lower low, closing in the bullish trap over that hooking 17 EMA. Underneath, all-time high anchored VWAP. Right here at the midpoint, not in the lower third, not in the upper third, just neutral right through there. Making higher lows, okay, and making higher highs. See the high they made over the 17 right there? That peak, okay, they made a higher high. So that gives them an uptrend. So just neutral and in an uptrend. There's Diamond Dow. FNGA or B or C, who knows what it is today. Okay, FNGA. What do we got here? Looking like lower high, lower low, closing opposed to the other ones. It's over the bullish trap where everyone else was closing in a bullish trap. Closing over bullish trap and price, closing over hooking 17 EMA. Underneath this all-time high anchored VWAP right there. Okay, break in the downtrend line. We can get rid of that. Okay, up here in neutral land, making higher lows and higher highs. See the high there? Well, see the high here? They got a high that poked through right there. Poked through the 17 in here. They made a higher high. So that puts them in an uptrend. Higher low, higher high. And not in the lower third, not in the upper third. So they're just neutral right here. Okay? So FNGA, getting it done. All right? A little slow, but getting it done. All right, let's take a look at our technicals. T2122. We spent the day inside the buy zone. Okay? Not a bad place to be. I like it when we're in the overbought zone, but if you're going to have a pullback and you hang out all day in the buy zone, nothing wrong with that. T2123, okay, price action, looking like, all right, so we had some, still drinking the margaritas early in the morning, must have been a late night, okay, still selling off a little bit, a little buying, a little selling, a little buying, a little selling. They're obviously, working through a hangover here. All right, a little buying, a little selling, but all in all, holding a bull flag. All right, so moving up and holding to the right, holding the higher ground. That's a bullish environment. Again, anytime I see price action, all right, consolidate, okay, over prior consolidation, okay, that's a bullish event. That's a bullish environment. Okay, see all of this? All right. Consolidation. Oh, I got to pause it. Hold on. All right, I'm back. All right. So, again, you get consolidation over consolidation. That's a bullish environment. Okay. You also got bullish gaps that haven't been filled by the bears. That's a bullish environment. Up over the 200 SMA. That's also a bullish environment. So bulls getting it done. All right. I like what's going on. All right. It's really not enough. But when is it ever enough? You know what I'm saying? When is it ever enough? But it's they're getting it done. It's going to take some time, but it's looking good. Okay. Not the best, but it's looking good. I like to see a pullback to the halfway point, okay? I don't think we're there, all right? That's what I'm looking for. Pull back to this area. Yeah, we did get back to the halfway point. Well, let's take that high right there because that's the high, okay? A little bit right there, okay? So we still got some room to move, all right? So I like to see us get all the way back up there, all right? And on top of it. Okay, we're close. I do like the idea that we're consolidating here. Okay, not in the lower third. I'd like to see us just get up on top of the midpoint here and consolidate up there. Start filling this gap. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm looking for. It's T2123. That's the 15-minute chart with the hooking 200 SMA there. That's a red line. All right, let's go take a look at 3-bar chart. Okay, 3-bar chart, what do we got? Got a falling 200 SMA right there, okay? And price action. Finally made, well, got to make a higher high here. Well, actually, it's a way up here. So they're a long ways off from making a higher high, but they did take out this little peak right here, okay? I did like that, all right? Especially for the 15-minute chart, okay? They finally took out that high that projects through that falling 17 EMA. Okay, so they finally took that out. But on the 3-bar chart, the real high to take out, the higher high, is the one that projects through the 17. And that's going to be right up here, that green, these 3 green candles here. So you can see still a long ways to go, all right? But we did a little mini bull flag, and we held the higher ground on that bull flag. Then we had a breakout, and now we seem to be holding the bull flag on another breakout from a bull flag. All right, so that's good. Putting in a little foundation stair step. Maybe we can climb our way out by building a string of stairs. We'll see. All right, so there's T2123 out of the lower third. That's good in neutral area. So. All right, not impressed yet. Okay, got to make a higher high. That would be really nice. Fill another bearish gap. Okay, that's what I'd like to see. Fill that bearish gap right there. They filled this one. All right, not a very big one, but it was a distance from the low down here. Okay, so got to give them that. All right, but fill this one. Maybe I could be impressed if you fill that one and climbed into the upper third up here. Okay, then I could probably be satisfied. All right, if we could do that. Fill the gap and hang out in the upper third. All right, that would look good. All right, but right now, you know, they're just trugging along. They still got some more work to do. Okay, they got a lot of room to improve. In other words, all right. So there's T2123. All right, FNGB, FNGA. Okay, bull flag, bullish gap still open. All right, I like that. See that? Well, bullish gap on the first. They still keeping that gap open. That's a bull flag holding the higher ground over the 200 SMA right here. Looking good. Kind of struggling to make some higher highs, though. All right? Let's face it. There's a high. There's a high. They made a higher high there. This high, not so much. This high, not so much. This high, not so much. Okay? We're struggling. All right? But the good news is we're not giving up. All right? That's the good news. They're holding this area. And that makes it a bullish environment. Again, when you take price action, you got consolidation through here, and you got consolidation over prior consolidation. That is a bullish environment. Being up over the 200 SMA, also a bullish environment. All right, so let's move on to, that's FNGA. Things are looking good, and we're up over this high anchored VWAP. I don't think it's the all-time high. All right, let's go take a look at a few sectors. All right, first sector we're going to look at is XLE. We'll look at it on the daily chart. XLE. Look at it on the scratch. Okay, so XLE, see the down in the lower third. That's bearish. Okay, not making any higher highs. Okay, so that's still in a downtrend and still in bearish territory in the lower third. That's XLE. Let's take a look at USO. All right, USO still in quadrant 4, still in bearish territory. Okay, not making any. See, there's a high, there's a high. There's a low, there's a lower low. So still in a downtrend, not making any higher highs, so still in a downtrend and bearish down here in quadrant 1. All right, let's take a look at UNG. This is natural gas. There's a high, there's a high. They haven't made a higher high. Okay, there's a low, there's a low, there's a low. They're making lower lows. That puts them in a downtrend. Lower high, lower low. All right, so that's downtrend for UNG. All right, moving down now. No, they're moving up. All right, so it's a pullback in a downtrend. Price action, not in the lower third, so that's not bearish, but still in a downtrend and caught underneath downtrend line right there. Okay, up over. This is just a 12-month high anchored VWAP right there. Okay, so price action, just neutral right there, but in a downtrend. Okay, let's take a look at precious metals. Oh, look at GLD. Ooh, look at that. All right, higher high, higher low, closing over the bullish trap, over the rising 17, over the, see the pink line, the all-time high anchored VWAP, up here in quadrant 4, almost at the top of quadrant 4, okay? That's bullish, that's an uptrend. See the higher low and the higher high. Okay, gold looking good, looking ready for another breakout. Okay, let's take a look at SLV. SLV, higher low, higher high, closing over bullish cross right there. See the 3 crossing the 8, closing over a bullish cross over the 17 EMA up here in quadrant 4. That's bullish, but guess what? We're still in a downtrend. Believe it or not, it's still in a downtrend, as bullish as this thing is. Okay, why? Because here's the low. We took out that low, that low. We took out that low right there. We took out that low right there. Took out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lows. 5 lows. 5 lows right there, okay? So we have to take out the high, okay? And that's way back here, over the 17, see? High over the 17, okay? I got a feeling, all right, okay, right there, that we just made a higher low here, and they're going to rip up over this high. All right, that will be the higher high, and that will negate the downtrend. Okay, I got a feeling that's what they're going to do. All right, if they can have some follow through with that candle there, take out that high, they'll have an uptrend, and they'll be bullish up here. They are bullish, okay, because they're in a downtrend. They're definitely not moving down. All right, and they're up over this. This is a 12-year high anchored VWAP, and it doubles as a 6-month high anchored VWAP right there. Okay. So we're up over that, and we're in quadrant 4, but still stuck in a downtrend. Remember, it's just a label, all right? That's all it is, just a label. Okay, so, but we still like them to make a higher high. Okay, so let's take a look at SMH. All right, SMH, lower high, lower low, closing not in the lower third, so it's neutral, making higher lows and higher highs. So in an uptrend, but still in neutral zone, all right? Underneath all-time high anchored VWAP, underneath downtrend line. Okay, let's take a look at big brother to the SMH, which is XLK, okay, technology. See, a little leaner, a little meaner, a little stronger. See that? SMH down here, XLK up here, okay? Lower high, lower low, closing inside a bullish trap over the rising 17, over the all-time high anchored VWAP, that's the pink line, under the uptrend line, but up here in quadrant 3, knocking on the door to the upper third, okay? If they got up there, that'd be bullish. They're still neutral and in an uptrend and looking primed to go, all right? XLK. XLF. XLF up here in the upper third, that's bullish, making higher lows, making higher highs. That's an uptrend and bullish. XLF is ready to go. It's already going, all right? It's already on board, okay? XLK, a little sluggish. And usually technology is the one to lead most rallies, okay? So I don't know if this one's going to work, all right? Just saying, okay? I don't know if this one's going to work because technology did not lead us out of this one, all right? So we'll see what happens. All right, let's take a look at IYT. All right, it's transports. Okay, no longer in the lower third. Okay, so we're just neutral. Okay, not looking real healthy. Got a high, made a higher high. Okay, so that's an uptrend, just barely. All right, if you want to call this pullback right here. Okay, so it's an uptrend on the transports, kind of a weak uptrend if you ask me, but it is. All right, not in the lower third. Okay, so that's neutral. All right, and in a weak uptrend underneath all-time high anchored VWAP, underneath the midpoint. Okay, so obviously still a lot more work to be done. All right, IYT right there to have that robust rally we're looking for. Maybe if we could get some certainty in the markets, okay, I think this rally could really jump pretty far. All right, if we got some certainty. We'll see. All right, we had heard we had negotiations today. Okay. Hey, Robert. Have to run to an appointment. Thanks, Jim. All right. Have a great evening. Yes, it is the worst day. It's a tough day. It was a horrible day, Brad. I totally agree with you. Thanks, Alan. All right. Hey, Robert wants to look at OCLO, PM, and IAG as opposed to IAIG. All right. Let's take a look at them. Okay. OCLO. Breaking out. That's looking good. Over the all-time high, over that high anchored VWAP. That's looking good, OCLO. All right, looking like a nice little breakout there. I like that. You're going to have resistance, all right, right here. Okay, so you got a little bit more room, and then you're going to get some turbulence, all right? It's looking good. Nice breakout. You got a little more room, but you got a little turbulence at 31.50. All right, maybe 31, maybe 31. Okay, a little turbulence there at 31. Okay, you get on top of 31. All right, and you consolidate over 31. Okay, your next leg up is going to be right up here. Okay, probably about 39.20. That's a big jump from 31 to 39.20. Okay, if you can hold on to that one. All right, that'll be a nice bull ride right there. Okay, up to 39.20. Okay, then from there, see this valley between the two peaks? Yeah, you know they're gonna go for that. Okay, all right, they're gonna go for that. Okay, right there, 47.27. All right. There's probably a good chance they're going to go for that. All right. This is bullish. It's looking good. All right. You're just going to have a little turbulence here. Like I said, about 31, 31.50. See right there. Okay. And then up from there, you get a little more, another checkpoint, about 38, 39 right there. Another checkpoint there. And then the next checkpoint is 47. And that's that valley between the two peaks. Okay, looking good. Nice little breakout there. Okay, just coming into turbulence pretty soon here in a couple bucks. I like that one. All right, and what did he say? Philip Morris. Philip Morris is looking awesome. They're making new all-time highs. Okay, I don't do fibs, but if you find someone that does do fibs, all right, Rick's really good at that. To look at that's new all-time highs right there. I'll try to do something. Okay, when it comes to projections, you're at your 127.2 right now. And you're kind of blasting through it. The next stop up is going to be your 1618. All right, which is going to put you right up here, 187.60. How is Philip Morris doing so well? I mean, that befuddles me, okay? Because with all the vaping going on, taking over cigarettes, besides that, everybody else that smokes cigarettes is probably in the ground. How is Philip Morris doing well? What are they selling? I'm just curious. They're now they're doing vape products. They were poo-pooing vape products, all right, because they were losing customers, And now they're into vape products. Look at that, huh? How times have changed. All right. So your next projection is 1618. Okay. I don't know if you get it. I hope you do get it. But I would love to short this one as soon as it tops out. But this is way too hot for me to short right now. All right. This would be the once in a lifetime short right here. Philip Morris shorting this one right here. I think because cigarettes are done. All right. And I don't think they've captured that much of the vape market. But they're looking strong and they're looking good. And they're even having a little breakout from this bull flag. So you could see a rock and roll up to, I think you get to 200, Robert. A recession. Are we in a recession? I don't think we're in a recession. They think it's a recession. That's why they're buying it. I think you get to 200. All right? I really do. I think it goes ballistic up to 200. All right? So keep an eye on that one. That's looking good. I think you get the next rock. All right? Up here 190. All right? So mark this off, 188. All right? That's your 161.8. All right? 167 to play it safe. Okay? That's your next target up. And it's looking good. All right? Next one, IAG, not AIG, but IAG. Okay. IM Gold. You're up over support. I like that. This is the all-time high. Right here, obviously. No, it's not. All right, you're up at resistance right now, okay? I think I'd like to see it get on top of, I think it goes to $10, all right? I think you probably even get $12. Okay, you're at the 100%. The next stop up looks like $9.05, and the 161 is 11.20. All right, about 11.20 right there. Okay, this is looking good. It's looking good. If it gets on top of 10 and holds, look out above. All right. All right, see this 921? See the valley between the two peaks? See this low right here? 920, all right? Watch out for 920. That would be a profit-taking number right there. $9.20, and then I'd expect it to consolidate bullishly over to the right. Hopefully over 9.20, maybe just under it. Okay? All right? I like that one. That one looks good. 9.20 looks like the number, though. Okay? 920. It's that valley between the two peaks. You know they're going for that. Okay? That's the one they're going for. All right, traders, that's it for me for today. Okay? Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Robert. All right, everybody have a wonderful evening. See you guys all tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Everybody have a great night. All right? Until then, until tomorrow, have a wonderful evening.